So everyone's favorite sweater vest wearing supervillain, Bill Gates, is back in the news, ladies and gentlemen, and he's introducing a new plan to take on misinformation. Because that is the agenda of any cretin billionaire at this point. They want to spend their leisure time dictating what you're allowed to say and what you're allowed to think, because that's pretty much the ultimate goal when you have unchecked, unreasonable power, is just to control people's thoughts and minds and memories and culture. Because what else, when you own all the agriculture, own all the technological advances, have a huge unchecked power when it comes to medical sciences. Even though he's not a doctor, he has no qualifications. So now he's introduced this new measure of putting AI to work to crack down on misinformation. And here's just how disturbing this is.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence...
So he starts off by saying, oh, well, we should have free speech. That's what they all say. That's what all these evil pricks say. Well, I understand free speech. Do you? Do you understand free speech? Because as you're about to further explain, you don't. You don't whatsoever. I understand free speech, but I still want to seize control. And here's how he's going to do it. Listen to this.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines,
Wow. Associating threat of violence to hesitancy on vaccines. Two of the most horrific terrors that are facing the world right now. Talk about comparing apples to cantaloupes. Like, oh my God. And clearly, this is already going to show that Bill Gates has no idea of what the constitutional right, the principle, really means. That free speech is to help so that people outside who have differing opinions are not being prosecuted. And if you do indict violence, there is already legal measures in place for that. There's already jurisdictions for that. We don't need people like you or John Kerry or AOC or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any other of these people to regulate people's opinions. Especially going in the misdirect of combating people being violent to questioning a medical experiment. Wow. I want to hear that again.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S.
Where are those boundaries? Where are those boundaries? I don't know. Where are the boundaries that you're restricting people for not looking up the information of said vaccines? Where are the boundaries for that? Where's the boundaries of censoring out people who are getting information from doctors as opposed to you, who has no background in medicine whatsoever? Where are those boundaries? Where are those boundaries? Where are the boundaries where you're paying millions of dollars to advertise yourself on television to make yourself a science expert, while restricting people like Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, a doctor who invented the technology that you're profiting from? Where are those boundaries? Where are those boundaries?
Should have rules, and then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions?
So you notice that there's a bit of a tell to this. You notice that there's a bit of a tell when he starts to giggle about AI. We got to set some rules, and imagine like an AI program doing something like that. He starts to giggle. he starts to giggle. And knowing what a character Bill Gates is and where his business lies makes me think that there's some sort of profit motive for this. It's not enough that he wants to restrict people from information, say goes towards his vaccine agenda, which are very safe and effective and slow the transmission rate, according to the lovely scientific folks at Google. It's not enough that he wants to do that, but it seems that there's some sort of profit agenda to make an AI monitor speech. And personally, I feel bad for the white wine Karens that are trolling the internet right now, because if they outsource their jobs to a robot, what are they going to do now? I appreciate the, modern day Karens, because they at least can detect sarcasm in context or an idiom or analogies. Robots can't really do that. And it'd be really hard to train an AI to take up jokes. Have you ever seen an AI write comedy? It's not that great. So let me restart this again. We'll play it in full. No interruptions. Just how gross this is.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. should, have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity and, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done?
Yeah, where are those people? If we got brought back the founding fathers who wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and brought the Bill of Rights, we need to scold them to make sure that includes not talking about vaccines. You're not allowed to be vaccine hesitant because it's going to lose money. That's literally the whole point of this. He doesn't want people to badmouth vaccines because it's going to lose money. Do you see how crazy that is? You see how crazy that is? That'd be like if the owner of Boston Pizza went on to television and say, hey, we got to change the legal laws so that no one can badmouth any Boston Pizza location. Or Eastside Mario's or TGI Fridays. You're not allowed to badmouth a comedy club. I know you may not like a certain comedian, but you're not allowed to badmouth a comedy club because it's going to lose money and we need to send you to prison. Wow. And comparing that to violent acts, questioning medicine, which I encouraged people to do, even when I was showing you the information. I always ended with, don't take my word of advice for it. I'm just showing you information so you're aware of this information. If you want further discussion, go seek a physician. Go talk to your family doctor. Go, read the reports that Dr. Pierre Corey and Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Peter McCullough have written up. Go examine for yourself. Go do your own research. I know that's such a terrible phrase around this era. Doing your own research. Yeah, reading is apparently so bad now in 2024 that we have to give that up and sacrifice it to a schmuck like him. Because it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous that not even a human can do fact checking anymore. We got to send it off to an AI program. And why did he giggle about AI? I think that has something to do with a business interest. He obviously is a monopolizer. He's a venture capitalist. He puts money at places that he thinks is going to take over the world. And then he enforces that into law through policy and policy makers to enact that so he can enrich his business. At least that's in my theory. Oh, wait. That's actually happening. There's a reason why he giggled. Because here's Bill Gates' top artificial intelligence stock other than Microsoft, and Wall Street thinks it can soar nearly 70% over the next 12 months. So Bill Gates has investments in AI technology, huge amount of investments in AI technology. So you're telling me that a billionaire can not only dictate over speech, but can also make a profit off that? Excellent. Like an evil ghoul would do. Because not only can he force people into only hearing the narrative of sliding to his egregious medical agenda, which he has no real intelligence for, but he can also turn a profit because it's an AI program dictating your speech. How unbelievably crazy and disturbing coming from a guy like him. And people think he's still sympathetic because, oh, look at him. He's in a sweater vest. He's a nerd. Oh, he can help with computers. That's so great. We need computers in the world. Why can't you can't be angry at him? Well, people and the people that are defending him don't really truly know. Either they're bought out by him and get a huge amount of bribes to not discuss who he really is, or they really don't know how disturbingly evil and corrupted and such a monopolist this guy is. He is the world's supervillain. He is the world's supervillain. And, you know, he talks about vaccine hesitancy as being one of the top traumas to why we need an AI program to dictate over this. You know, we don't want people to be hesitant on taking this experimental drug, which is what patients should be allowed to do. That's the whole purpose of being a patient, is you're allowed to get second opinions. You're allowed to, you know, have hesitancy. That's why you go for different doctors for advice. But here is himself even being vaccine hesitant. And this is him shortly after his vaccine stock, all the patents that he owned for the vaccines, he sold off. So the minute he turned a huge profit from lying and misinforming you so that you conform to his agenda and sold off the stocks, now he's going to reveal something that truly was understated during the pandemic.
It wasn't until early February when I was in a meeting that experts at the foundation said, there's no way, you know, there's been too much travel without diagnosis for us to contain this. And then at that point, we didn't really understand the fatality rate. You know, we didn't understand that it's a fairly low fatality rate and that it's a disease mainly of the elderly, kind of like flu is, although a bit different than that. So that was a pretty scary period, right, where the world didn't go on alert, including the United States, nearly as fast as it needed to.
Oh my God. That was a huge amount of hesitancy right there. Shouldn't the AI program kick him out of that chair? Take him out back and give him a lesson to? How dare you contradict? Oh my God. That's going to undermine the whole agenda. Well, luckily he sold off all of his stocks before mentioning all of this. You know, these true facts about the low fatality rate, that the vaccines weren't actually stopping transmission. I'll say it slowers transmission thanks to the wonderful people at Google, but it doesn't actually do the job that it was lied to you for. They were the ones giving you hesitancy. They were the ones that are misinforming you. Because if you went and consulted with people that knew a thing or two about this virus, if you consulted a virologist, if you heard people like Dr. Pierre Corey or Dr. Robert Malone or Dr. Peter McCullough or any other well-known physician or medical scientist that studied COVID and the vaccines, it's people like him that interrupted that and gave you hesitancy. Because they were telling you they're not doctors. They're not qualified. They're a bunch of witchy, phony crackheads. Oh my God, they're so crazy. They're cringeworthy. You know, the guy that invented the technology that you're profiting off of. He's such a crazed kook. Why would he go on a place like Joe Rogan? Why doesn't he go on MSNBC like a good doctor? Coming from a man who barely programs at his own company. He's supposed to be a tech wizard, but barely programs at his own company. And now he is the advocate for technology, agriculture, medical sciences, speech, and AI programs. That's why he giggled when he said, oh, can you imagine an AI program dictating over people's speech on social media? Can you imagine how great that'd be? Yeah, because he can turn a profit off that. If he wasn't able to turn a profit off that, I don't think he would care this much about censorship. He might because of the vaccine stuff, but he wouldn't be giggling about an AI program if it wasn't for that. Here's also another instance where, again, using his logic, this would be considered hesitancy. This would be considered violent, according to his discretion. His association of violent acts to vaccine hesitancy. This would be considered violence to him. Listen to this.
Antibodies, antivirals. We think we can also have, very early in an epidemic, a thing you can inhale that will mean that you can't be infected, a blocker, an inhaled blocker. We also need to fix the three problems with vaccines. The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration.
That was Microsoft billionaire and philanthropist.
What are you talking about? I thought the transmission stopped. It was supposed to stop the thing. That's what Rachel Maddow always said. That's what the good-hearted people like Anderson Cooper. Why would Anderson Cooper lie to me about that? He's a good boy. He collects the checks from Pfizer and Moderna just like every other schmuck in the media. Why would he lie to me about this? I think you're being too hesitant there, Mr. Gates. You're conducting violence. According to you. According to you. So your statement of having an AI program monitor people for vaccine hesitancy and violent acts, you're now committing. I guess the AI program should be taking you out. Wow. And the reason he's stating this is, again, because he sold off his stock, so he made a huge profit off of the vaccine industry. He sold off all the COVID patents, made a huge profit about this, and then he comes forward with the idea of a nasal spray that you shoot in your nose, and it's supposed to help relieve the sinus of COVID. And that's his new business venture. So he went from the vaccines, sold off profit, and then jumped to the nasal spray. And now he's saying that the vaccines are worthless. They're not effective. But that's just Bill Gates saying. I could say that it slows transmission. They're very safe and effective. Thanks to the wonderful, wonderful scientists at Google. And here's him describing to CNBC, apparently in a Vermont snowstorm, by the looks of it. Here's him describing to CNBC how he's able to be this evil mastermind, this medical marvel for profiteering, and how it's such a great investment. Listen to this.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that. And it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
Over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits.
So he's saying it's a 20-to-1 return on investments. 20-to-1 return on putting all the money towards a medical experiment that failed to get tested. They experimented on everybody in the entire globe and jeopardized people's health. It's a 20-to-1 return jeopardizing on people's well-being and health. That is Bill Gates, ladies and gentlemen. That is what a true sinister devil looks like. And I know he doesn't look like it because he doesn't have the horns and the red face and doesn't look like a bearded goat. But, even from a non-religious point, they say that the devil comes in many forms, and this is a sign of it. That he's profiting off of your disparity and jeopardizing your health and well-being because it gave a 20-to-1 return and bragging about it to the business networks. And who is going to be watching these business networks? Not me. Not you guys, not the average day workers, but the business interests that don't even care about your health to begin with and look at this and go, oh, maybe I should get into vaccine technology. Maybe I should put my money towards this. Because they want to be evil, maniacal, psychopath, monopolists like Bill Gates. They yearn towards that. Instead of actually improving the health and safety and standard of the entire globe, which would be beneficial to every industry, every single industry in the world. If you don't have health and safety and focus on the well-being of your workers, you don't have industries. You don't have companies. That's why people protested against the mandates. That's why it took the truckers here in Canada to do what they did. And you have Bill Gates bragging to CNBC about a 20-to-1 return investment on how much money he's making, giving you hesitancy. Giving you hesitancy because he wasn't giving you facts. He wasn't providing information. He was telling you that information is bogus and to do what he says. That is hesitancy. And using his own verbiage that he said earlier, an AI program should be taking him out. He should be the one scorned and scolded for the words that he's saying, for providing hesitancy. But they're not going to do that because he's the world's richest psychopath. One of the world's richest psychopaths. And he laughs about it. He brags about it. He doesn't give a damn about anything he says. Yeah, Bill Gates doesn't give a damn about medicine. Surprising, isn't it? Next thing you're going to say is Bill Gates doesn't actually care about farming. You mean he bought all that agricultural land just for the sake of business wealth? Yeah. And then he's going to close down those farms, put up a bunch of chemical plants, and serve you fake meat. Because that's the kind of prick this guy is. That's the kind of evil, psychopath, sociopath, evil Lucifer monster that Bill Gates is. I know he doesn't look like it, but that is truly who this man represents and who this guy is, internally and externally. And also Jeffrey Epstein's friend, but we're not supposed to go into detail about that.